We'll do it live.
Presented by Big Red Cloud. My name is Andy McGeady. Visit www.bigredcloud.com for all your online accounting needs. It's just an exciting day. There are 5 boxes on the screen right now if you're watching live. We'll start with the usual. Mr. Paul Williams, how are you?
Good evening, and very well, thank you. You may have noticed a change in attire.
Had a real good walk today with the family and the dog down on God's country. I live on the South Wales coast, and we're blessed. And been fishing in my local river and been to the gym. So it's been a great day. This lockdown stuff is a piece of cake.
Yeah. Jeez, we might ask people about that. Producer Adam Redmond, how are you?
Yeah, I think, Andy, what we should do is parachute them into Casa del Holly and just blow up that setup. Jesus Christ.
The only problem I got is I can't afford to feed my family.
Yeah,
Small things like that.
Sorry, Paul was saying that Sean had lost 9 kilos, or I've at least put on 9 since I finished up playing. I should be the one wearing a hoodie trying to cover up, I think.
It's we're going to get to that because it's always interesting talking to players about how the body reacts to suddenly not playing anymore. There'll be the usual comments during the evening. Bear Hug, our friends who make bamboo-based supports, are still giving away gear for the best question or comment for the evening. This is where I do the read and look professional. Bear Hug are the unmistakable orange muscle sleeves and joint supports. Uniquely using bamboo in the makeup of their supports, this difference in composition can increase blood flow and dramatically reduce rehabilitation and recovery periods while enhancing performance. Visit getabearhug.com.
Who needs Will Ferrell?
I know, he is. He's the Will Ferrell of rugby.
Paul, I thought I told you to get him a shorter read from our friends at Bear Hug.
I need a shorter read. We need a shorter read. So already in the comments, we see Howell Davis, I think winner of last week's best comment. Evening, fellas. Yeah. Michael Jenkins, hi from Pembrokeshire West is best. Another regular. Thanks very much. We're broadcasting live on, I think, YouTube, Facebook, and the Twitter machine this evening. So keep the comments coming in. The lads will be looking at them. Adam will be putting them up front. But we've got a few things to get to. We'll be talking about, we're talking to Dean, a decision to retire from active rugby playing life. Trip down a bit of memory lane. Adam might have been doing some homework on this, some visual homework. You just wait, Dean. We'll be talking about Russia's surprise bid to host the Rugby World Cup in 2027. I, for one, support this, and I'm not reading this at gunpoint, and everything is fine in my house. There's the Six Nations +2 tournament, which it looks as if it could be happening this autumn. We'll have a little chat about that, the potential 2 pools of 4, which is being reported this week. Melbourne Rebels coach Dave Wessels, he's a mad idea for rugby in Australia, kicking it off again. We will discuss that. Paul's been busy writing a column. We've got a lot to get through. Okay, Dean, how's the weight issue? Some people blow up when they stop playing. Some people get a bit slimmer because they had a bit of a battle to put on weight. Which one are you?
I've had the whole journey, I think. In my first few years of my career, I was a dripping wet 100 kilos. But ever since I got the weight on, it's just not stopped. And it's fair to say, even towards the end of my professional career, it was starting to pile on. And I reached the milestone of 120 kilos the other day, which is pretty special for me.
Did you get a cake?
I ate about 10 cakes to get there, so I didn't need one.
But this is one of the things. We talked about this on a previous show, where this is a weird season for all sorts of reasons. But one of the weird things is you see these press releases of multiple players from a club calling it a day. And there's no final game. It just doesn't work the same way as before. What's it been like for you?
I think I don't know. I've kind of decided that it's cool, and I'm living by that because I don't have a choice in it really. It's been strange. It's been strange not having even an India function, a chance to kind of say goodbye to anyone. It almost kind of got you a kick out the door and a thank you and goodbye. So it's a bit of a strange feeling. But I know. I mean, I said it. Every moment of my career was special to me. So I don't need one game to make that all more real. It was real the whole time. So it's good enough to be done.
Dean, I'm not sure if you recognise this fella, but he's giving you a nice little pat on the back on the way out the door. Seb Negri, captain, leader, legend, Dean Budd, and I think you were officially retiring as Benetton skipper, not just as Benetton second row.
He's actually one, I tell you, needs to keep his weight in check.
Seb Negri, you have a right of reply.
Oh, very good.
I know you would have seen him on his Instagram posting some good pics, but you always notice that kind of that lifesaver around the belly is always covered up.
Just speaking of weight as well, I've got to punch this one up from James Reed. Yikes, 120 kilos, must be about 3.5 hollies.
Oh, 4?
I swear I was like anorexic or something. Dean,
we're all just jealous here.
I've lost 9 kilos.
We are jealous. That's all it is.
88 kilos,
It's envy.
It's envy, but there was the time where he'd become so light he fell off his exercise bike.
True, that's true.
That's true.
Got picked up in a headwind.
Yeah. That's how those things work. You need a bit of stability, bit of stability in the caboose. But yeah, Dean, you've had a bit of a travel through the career. Adam, do you want to go through some homework now? I think this would be good.
You go for it. I've sent you all the important numbers, haven't I?
Numbers. See, numbers are one thing, but I'm talking about the visual impact of Dean's career. But yeah, if we run through, so Japan, the NEC. See now, right? Okay, there's the proper stuff on the left-hand side. You're playing Test rugby for Italy. How many caps was this, Dean?
29. I'm telling everyone that I was 30-ish. But yeah, I was pretty sad to finish on 29. Didn't quite crack the 30.
That's all right. Is that where you thought you'd get to when you start playing the game?
Oh, to be honest, I didn't think I'd international caps. I didn't even think I would get one. When I left New Zealand, I was pretty prepared to just be a club rugby player, and that I was satisfied with that. But once I got one, I wanted 5. Then I wanted 10. Then I needed to get 25, and to finish. I mean, you never lose the hunger to get more. I mean, I'd love to go to 50. I wish I could have, played forever. It's just such an honour to go out there every week. I'm a bit nervous. These photos are coming up. I've done a semi-nude. I've done a semi-nude shoot for Maxime, and if this comes up, my hands are dripping with sweat. I tell you.
Adam, all I'm saying is that if you didn't have that coming up, you better have it coming up.
Right? Oh God!
Google Redmond.
Yeah, we can do some filler, right?
I don't even have the excuse that this is a family show. We go live after the watershed,
Correct.
I would say. Well,
so 63, right? So 63. I need to do the maths in my head, right? 63 starts for Benetton, 28 off the bench. That's a decent shift coming through.
And about 20 odd and bet you that's Seb Negri getting his word of reply in. Right?
The job offers coming in already.
You throw in the 20 plus appearances in Europe as well, so it's a pretty decent innings, over 100 appearances for Benetton, and probably fair to say you came into Benetton when I think it was Franco Smith had just left and they were kind of going downwards because they came into the tournament with a bit of a bang, really tough to beat in Treviso. There was a couple of down years, and I suppose you leave as they're on a high. So really all down to you, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, I would love to say you're right, but I got there actually when Franco was still there, and we had a great year my first year. and then the wheels really fell off for a couple. But yeah, we came right. I think it's a massive credit to Kieran and the change of kind of attitude of the club to try and start to do new things. But yeah, it was always a goal of mine to get to 100 games for Benetton. So that's pretty cool. What is
Dean? There was a big change in playing style while you were there as well, wasn't there? So initially it was very forward orientated, I'd say, and even in that middle bit, and then towards the end, then it's become, got quite a tricksy back three and playing a lot more open rugby.
Yeah. Basically, when Kieran arrived, Italy Rugby didn't actually know what a conditioning game was. So if it was conditioning, I was on the line running, and skills pretty much didn't exist apart from the kind of three lines and pass it through the hands and chuck it off to the next one, or the four corners kind of thing. So yeah, when Kieran's came in and introduced conditioning games, it just shows you like to be able to perform skills whilst under pressure is so valuable, and that gave us the ability to get away from a forwards game because it was kind of boring, No, as much as I'm a forward, I don't really like scrumming and going to a line out and mauling and then doing that all over again. It's nice to kind of have a back three that's going forward and something to run onto and get a meat pie out on the wing every now and again.
Paul knows exactly what it's about being a second row. It isn't like pushing in the scrum.
or tackling.
It's called hiding in the scrum, wasn't it? But Dean, when we spoke on the big interview for Guinness Pro 14, we were talking a little bit about how Benetton have started to really become a bit of a force away from home. What was that like? Tell us, our listeners, on Wednesday nights, what changed that mentality? Was it just a lift in confidence, the arrival of Kieran, a few, solid wins at home, that mentality of being able to go away and nick wins and perform? What was the transition?
I think a couple of factors. Definitely confidence at home. I mean, when if we weren't winning at home, we were putting in amazing performances and losing last minute, and that gave us real confidence. And yeah, I mean, we just wanted to create a winning culture, and that was our motto for those years. So to be winners, you had to win away from home. So it became a day in, day out mindset of each player. And I think probably, I mean, not as an excuse. Sometimes back in the day, I mean, it happens from time to time. We used to have kind of 12, 14-hour trips, away trips, the day before a game, getting in at 10 o'clock the night before a game and trying to turn up at 2:30 kickoffs the next day. You got boys just literally yawning in the changing rooms, trying to stay awake to go out and play a professional top-level game of rugby. It's just not possible. And I think that was addressed by the club and realised that to win, you have to invest in travel, not only just the things on ground.
So we got a response from Seb Negri. He knew it was coming. Clearly didn't see the holiday pick, Dean. The heat is here, and also your tip got me shredded for that.
Very good. Do you know we can't have a Kiwi on without me asking my normal classic question, because we do a pod on Saturday morning as well, Dean, where we've been watching Super Rugby, and we always marvel every week at the skills base of the forwards out in New Zealand. Particularly sort of Dane Coles and Ardy Sevilla. And I wrote a little bit in my column this week about Akira Owane, who put a chip kick through from the base of a scrum, which I've never seen before. That's the first time I've ever seen an 8 pick up and deliberately put a chip kick through. So would you say there's a little bit or a big skills divide between forwards in the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere? Or is it just the way they're allowed to play?
Firstly, I think it's how you're allowed to play. I mean, you're encouraged if you can do it. You're encouraged to try it out there. That's a big philosophy down in New Zealand. So there's that, and yeah, I mean, we're playing rugby. I mean, especially the loose forwards in New Zealand rugby, they're all kind of converted wingers or centres that kind of just got a little bit too big and had to pack on the side of a scrum. So it's just the way it is. the skill set down under is just incredible, and it's encouraged, so it makes it a little bit easier, and there's no fear that you're going to get your head ripped off by a coach at the end of the game. Well, it'd happen anyway if you did a shitty kick, but at least they'll pretend before the game that they're not going to.
Yeah.
I remember once trying to hit a drop goal in club rugby back in New Zealand, and the coach really gave me a good serving after that.
I'm going to pull us back into the previous thing about sleeping, right? Because I think that's extraordinary to think that you're doing those kind of travels. Because I remember listening to a guy called Dr. Charles Seisler, right? He's a sleep expert from Harvard. And he said that he used to go around NBA teams giving these talks and, you know, about the importance of sleep. And you see all these superstar athletes going, yeah. Until he said, okay, after 1 week of sleeping 5 hours or less each night, which if you're in your 20s, you're going, okay, well, fine. A man's testosterone levels drop as if he's aged 11 years.
Really?
Wow.
So if you're a 22-year-old athlete,
that's my
you're being told that suddenly you're paying attention. But it's a thing that we never really paid attention to. Like,
that's incredible.
Super Rugby now with the
and it's what cripples Super Rugby. You know, away teams, the wins that they're so rare in Super Rugby. You look at Jaguares and the distances they travel to get to South Africa from New Zealand. They look exhausted when they land. You know, I think that's one of the problems with that comp.
Even in the Pro 14, it's you've got to be as professional as you can. Dean will know this, because you could be playing 8 o'clock, 7:30 on a Friday night 1 week. Then you're not playing until maybe 2:30 the following Saturday. You get windows where you're playing Sunday 1 week, Friday night the next. So as a management, you have to plan your team for 5-day turnarounds, 6-day, 7-day, 8-day, and 9-day turnarounds. So their body clocks are different. And we got a scientist in from Swansea University, I think, who explained to us there is a phenomenon that you have morning people and you have evening people. Right. You know, there are certain people that function better in the morning or afternoon, and certain people who function better in the evening, because we were trying to work out the optimal time for training times and things like that. So there's a lot more to it. I can remember playing against Saracens in the quarterfinal of a Heineken Cup, and it was a 1 p.m. Sunday kickoff. We'd never played at 1 p.m. Since our existence. And I can remember being in the hotel late on a Saturday night, drinking coffee with a couple of players about 10:30, 11. And I thought to myself, boys, we should be in bed here. You know? We were so used to traveling Thursday night, not playing till 7:30 Friday. And I remember going to the game on because we were up and out by 10:30, 11 in the morning to get to Vicarage Road. I can remember being on the bus thinking, do you know what? I'm feeling a bit tired. This game is on us a bit quick here, and we started really slow and couldn't catch up in the game. So Dean's right, you know, that professionalism preparation for games is it's so underestimated, I think.
Do I remember reading Dave Brailsford when he was at Sky? One of the first things he did is made sure that all of the cyclists took their own pillows with them wherever they travelled. So that when they, you know, that was one of the most important. I think they had to take their own duvets as well.
Yeah.
Which is,
didn't they run into trouble because there might have been some odd stuff in the pillows?
Probably that was the excuse.
I'm not saying anything. We could all end up in court. But
special feathers.
No idea what you're talking about, Paul.
No, me, I'm not saying anything. But think of that level of detail. He's got his rackets up again now.
I thought they were snowshoes.
If you can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah, you're very proud of those. But when you look at, I'm just looking at some of these little. Yes, exactly.
Look at this.
Ian McKinley weighs in.
The one and
Dean
only.
Board, legend.
I think he's gone for best question here.
Well,
okay, who's due?
No. My dog's name's Dewey.
Dewey.
Which I explain the story. I don't know where he is, the little fella, but Dewey in Italian means number 2. So me and another player, Maya Swanepoel, one day just decided that we wanted French Bulldogs. So we get on the internet and, stupidly enough, in our naivety, ordered these French bulldogs off the internet, and they turned up on a train the next day from Napoli, and we were all happy and blah blah. Took them to the vet, and she was mad as ever at us that we'd essentially got these dogs off the internet, that they weren't healthy, they weren't chipped, and blah 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 blah. And and it links into our travel, actually. My one was getting quite sick literally after a week. This ends up being a sad story. I shouldn't be laughing, but I was away in Connacht, and I left my dog with Rupert Harden, actually his wife, and we're about to board the plane to head back, and Rupert gets rings like, your dog's dead.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
And so, it was. I mean, it was horrible, obviously, but that's the motive for his name being 2, because he's number 2.
Oh, love him!
Right. Mate, we've got the whole Benetton squad tuning in tonight. It's fantastic.
I know, it's brilliant. We've got there's another one.
We're big in Treviso, boys. Big in Treviso.
Big in Italy.
We're big in Italy today. I'm still wondering about. There has to be some rugby coach somewhere who has bought a player off the internet, right? That he never saw in person. And he arrives and goes, "Listen, this isn't what I ordered at all."
Yeah. The old Wish versus Amazon.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. Wish, yeah.
Right, we will move on from Dean for a while.
Come here,
Say hi to Harvey quickly.
Adam, have you?
The Benetton boys are watching, so this is perfect timing, because we showed the real illustrious images from Dean's career. I would say there is one aspect of his career he won't miss, and that's all the promo shots that. Unfortunately, I will hold my hands up. I was responsible for some of them. Good with and without the ball, Dean. I think we can all agree. Strong beard.
Good.
Dean.
Yeah,
that's
good.
A completely natural way to look.
Yeah, that's how I carry.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Let's see.
It's completely natural.
There's no more photos coming up, are there? We're done.
Right. So you see that picture on the right where he's squeezing the ball. So my first year on the job, I wasn't in charge of the photo brief, but the following year the same pictures reappeared, and I was like, how did those pictures go? I saw the photographers. I was like, how did those pictures reappear? Like I didn't want those ones this year. And they're like, oh, it was in the brief, and someone had used the previous year's brief as a template. So we got a second round of all the boys doing this. I was like, we're never using those.
How not to carry into contact.
But Dean is nothing but versatile, and he can do the sort of bad boy look in the dark streets. So here's another one.
Oh, look at that! Here, who's the guy? Who's the lad on the right? I don't recognise him.
Have you seen Ian McKinley's just chipped in? We've got some more.
Oh God!
I bet you have.
Ian, it's Andy McGeady at gmail.com. Ian, that's
Get him in. Stick him up on Instagram.
Now, the only thing I
very
would say
good.
in fairness, right, and this is where Dean gets off the hook, is that I didn't quite have enough time to track down the Benetton calendar from, I think, about 2 years ago. Now, I don't think any of his teammates would be in a position to make judgment, because did any of you even wear a stitch of clothing in this calendar, Dean? The one where you guys are oiled up and in the blue and purple light. It's
we certainly gained a new fan base after that.
I bet they're all piling now.
Yeah,
Negri's back on.
No, I'd be delighted to come on now, Dean.
Troll.
The ones that Seb's got are the worst, because he was always my roomie. So they're they're not for the public eye.
yeah, that's fair. There are rules. We can keep going on this for a while, yeah. But
I'll tell you about one shoot that you wouldn't have seen, Adam. Is that one day we're in Italy camp, and it was actually leading into the All Blacks game, and I was walking down to do physio, and Maxine, the magazine, was in there taking shots of the boys, and they were doing a nude shoot, and no one wanted to do it. And because our media guy knows I don't really worry about too much, he bowls into the physio room's like, come on, come do the nude shoot. And I've literally just rolled out of bed. I was like, I'll do it if you just show me these photos before they get published, because like I'm not in good nick at the moment, and I'm not sure I really want these going out with a bit of unless they've got a bit of Photoshop done on them. He's like, yeah, don't worry. Sure enough, the next Six Nations rolls around, and they're like, oh, Dean, come sign your photos that have been published in the magazine. And I go down, not even touched up with Photoshop one bit. There's just me nude with a ball in front of my crotch, and it's just one of the worst photos I've ever seen.
It's okay, Dean. You were young. You needed the money. It's fine. It's fine.
Exactly.
We understand.
And I didn't get €1
We've
out of that.
all been there.
I want to. Can we leave Dean for a while, or just want to leave him hanging? We'll leave him hanging. I'm going to read out the thing that arrived in today that I can't quite get it right in my head where this goes. Okay, in the sort of scale of what are we supposed to do with this news? I'm going to quote from the Russia Rugby Twitter account. The Supreme Council of the Rugby Union of Russia has created a committee to prepare an application to host the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Russia. There's more, but I'm just going to leave it there. Yeah. We did not expect this today. Vladimir Putin backs surprise Russia bid to host 2027 Rugby World Cup. Telegraph Rugby. From BBC Sport. Russian coach Lynn Jones says the country could do a really good job of hosting the 2027 Rugby World Cup.
Sean, I don't think Lynn has much choice in that particular opinion, has he?
No.
It was always going to be that line, I think. Adam.
It's either that or a pint of polonium.
Plutonium, you mean?
Allegedly. And then in a very strange story, including there's a good article somewhere, and I'm gonna forget. Is it Wales Online? Could be. A 19-hour drive took James down when he landed, because you can't actually fly into Russia. So Cardiff Blues second row Jamestown has left the region after a 12-year career to join Russian side Lokomotiv Penza. All this happened at the same time, and I don't know how to deal with it, Paul.
It's been Russia Day today. I mean, I'm not commenting on that World Cup thing because I want to live a long and fruitful life. So we'll just leave. We'll just leave in that. The James Down thing is quite interesting. You know, he's a good player, James, and I know him. I mean, people who follow me on Twitter know that I frequent a certain bar in Cardiff called At Pitch, which sells Guinness, Adam, so we can put it in. And he's one of the part owners, so I know James quite well. And he fell out of favour at Cardiff Blues and didn't really play for the last 2 seasons. Then went to play in Merthyr. I don't think he was particularly happy about that. And he's been given another chance at a pro deal, and off he's gone. I think it's a fantastic move. You know, how often do you get a chance to go and play in Russia? So I think it's worked out well for him.
Really?
Russia Sorry, Holley.
I just Google mapped Penza.
No, I know. But what I mean is,
it's 3 flights from Moscow, for goodness sake.
No, I know, but it's either that or Merthyr, Sean.
Yeah, I'm right. All right, I'm not saying.
I'd just like to apologise to any listeners, any viewers from Merthyr. Paul's views are his own. They do not represent anybody else on the podcast.
Look, there has to be. Penza must be either a beautiful place or there's a job link to it. I can't see that he's going for residency to play in the World Cup. It might be. I don't know. But James has had a 12-year career already, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Might be that for the next... I don't know. But you don't often read of a Welsh club player signing for a Russian team, do you?
No.
But
you know
we don't often have a time where Russian rugby is one of the only games in town. and they're probably paying cash money.
Yeah.
He's like Gareth Bale in Penza.
No, he will be. But then you think quite a lot of Welsh coaches, well, not players so much, but have done the Russian thing, like Lynn and.
Yeah, but it's the national team, mate, isn't it? It's not local in Penza. Yeah.
No, I know, I do understand. I'm trying to put a good spin on it. I think it's a good move.
Good luck to him. It's a brave move.
Yeah.
Good luck to him.
Like I say, it's either that or he may not have got another deal. So I think he just fancied, one more crack at it, a year away, and then back to to the real world.
In this age of incredible uncertainty, I'm saying, lads, whatever you want to do is cool.
Yeah, good.
Whatever you want to do is cool.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, Dean, some players when they retire, we see little pictures and video clips of them turning out for a local amateur team. Are we going to see Dean Budd playing fly half for a local South London team?
Yeah, Clapham Common.
Potentially. I've got another 6 months or so here, so yeah. I'll maybe get that last glory game in and wave off to 50 people standing on the side.
Exactly.
All of those.
The plan to go home, mate?
Yeah, the end goal's to end up in New Zealand. I'm just kind of working through some visa issues with my English partner to get her back. New Zealand doesn't want anyone. They probably don't even want me at the moment. I think they shut the border. They didn't shut them, but they asked Air New Zealand to stop booking flights for even Kiwis to come home because they're getting overwhelmed. Really? So yeah, it's not an easy process at the moment.
No, I can imagine. Well, even today in Australia, they've sort of secluded some areas from others again, haven't they? They've put in another sort of hard border, soft border.
Yeah, I think Victoria's just getting blocked out of Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
Let's not get McGeady on this in his second spike syndrome.
I will not go there tonight yet. But yeah, so the Russia thing is weird. We will see how this goes. In fairness, they've captured the sports headlines, and another time they wouldn't get them. So fair play, whoever the media person is there.
You know what, the reality of that Russia thing, one last point on it, if they've got money, right, rugby needs money, that could easily end up in Russia.
Yeah, it could. Look, at the end of the day,
in all seriousness,
we want a global game. Russia made the last World Cup.
Yeah.
It's a superpower of sport, athletics and ice hockey and, all those sort of things. Football is very strong. They've held the Football World Cup.
Yeah. And that was a success, wasn't it? I know we're joking, laughing about Putin, but
it was, and it helped develop the.
I'm not laughing at Putin, Paul.
He's a great guy.
I'm not laughing. It was Paul that was laughing.
I'm not laughing.
Nobody else. All right. And look, I think somebody put on the comments here, who was it, said, wouldn't it be a bit cold in Russia? It's a fair point, isn't it? I mean, Russia's very hot, I'm told, in the summer. So when it will be played, if it was given that. But it's also a good bit of promo marketing around it, isn't it? Just by this very announcement today.
Yeah, totally.
So it'll be interesting, so if they do get the World Cup, going on the timeline of the last activity, we've got a couple of years until they annex someone else before they get a major global tournament. And that's going to be great. Everything will get very awkward for a minute while we contemplate that. 6 nations plus 2.
I would say one last thing on the Russia bit, though. If this is serious, I think you'll see one or two of those Russian teams who are constantly in and out of the Challenge Cup. And I don't know if Saracens don't quite have a Russian club. I know they have one in Romania and a few others. But one of those Russian teams, if they're serious, all of a sudden, they'll find that they've got a couple of extra zeros in the bank balance. And,
and a
James Down.
Steroids.
Exactly.
We've all seen Icarus by this stage.
We've all seen Icarus, absolutely.
Yeah. In about 3 years' time, a Russian team will win the Champions Cup, and everyone will go, "What?"
But that sums up the entire Russian sport debate, doesn't it? Because on one hand, it's probably a very serious bid, and they did a great job with the Soccer World Cup. On the other hand, they've got massive form for doping at a state level And that just sums up the dichotomy of that sporting nation. It's, I don't know what the answer is to any of that, really. It's above
I
my
just like
pay
to say I have no affiliation with Paul Williams. I've never met him in person.
Ollie, if I go down, I'll take you with me. First one down.
Can I just, before we do move on to the 6+2 autumn plan, I'd like to compliment Adam Redmond on going full Wayne's World and having the full Guinness logo right in the middle of shot when he was having that sip of a pint.
Yeah, that's a bit of branding.
That's well done.
I actually drank
very
Guinness
subtle.
out of a can last night, and it was somewhat drinkable, actually. I was surprised.
There we go. There's another ad.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Well done.
Dean,
Guinness, somewhat
keep them nice
drinkable.
and cold.
And I mentioned that they sell it at pitch.
Guinness, you heard it first here. The Team Bed Guinness advert. Guinness from a can. Somewhat drinkable.
But said
There
in
you
a
go.
Kiwi accent is perfect, isn't it? I like that. It's somewhat drinkable.
It's like when you talk to a New Zealand player about rugby and he'll talk about a player and he says, yeah, he's average, mate. Average is really good. Really good.
Who's average? Aaron Major. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
This is true.
So we've got this weird world of rugby. We talked last week about the club seasons up this part of the world starting to kick off again, and we were talking about, well, what would happen in the autumn, because we're not crossing hemisphere here. That's not happening. And what's most likely is we'll have a rugby championship of some form based in New Zealand, possibly, if everything goes to plan. But now reports are coming out about what this could look like in the Northern Hemisphere. We might have a Six Nations. Well, we have to finish off this year's one first, which will be a couple of games. And then we have a whole new tournament. Adam, I think you've got some tasty graphics here to help us describe what might happen.
Professional graphic designers, look away now. So
It's readable.
inverted commas. It's almost like you're doing your eye test. If you Paul,
I've
can
just
you
leaned
read
in.
the fourth line on the right there, please?
Capital E.
Reported 8 nations. So this is a couple of journalists have been on the story here this week. Peter O'Reilly at the Sunday Times was the first one on it. So he's reporting that there's 2 pools: England, Wales, Ireland, Fiji in one, Italy, Scotland, France, Japan reportedly in another. And the plan being is that you play each person in your pool once, and then afterwards you'll have the 2 tables. First will play first, second will play second, and third will play third. So presumably that's a trophy, a plate, and a spoon of some sort. And that will run from November 15th through to December 5th. So really, you're looking at, it's that 4-week block that we are used to in November of teams playing 3 or 4 internationals, just a little bit more structure to it. But preceding that, we're looking at the final 2 weeks of October being used for the Six Nations games that weren't played. Dean should have been playing in one of them. Actually, he should have been playing in that Ireland game in Dublin. And
England.
And England, in Rome. And then the other thing is, I think Scotland's report that Scotland will play a warm-up game for the 8 nations against Georgia at the end of October as well. So, there's a bit to digest there. We need to get, international rugby fuels the financial engine for all of these unions, and that in turn feeds into clubs and stuff like that. But it is like, Dean, this is a big ask for certain players, and particularly at the international end, where some of these guys are going to come back in and play Premiership or Pro 14. In Pro 14, they may play into September if you get to the final. Some players will then go in and play the latter stages of Europe. They'll then get called straight into international camp. They'll get off international rugby. They'll go into Europe. They might play some Christmas derbies. And then you're going back into Six Nations. And there's a Lions tour at the end of it for a lot of the guys in Ireland and the UK. It's a little bit. It's a little bit much, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you look at the Scotland and Italy's mainly in that sense of only having 2 teams which are massively represented in the national side, and I think they're going to take an absolute hammering. I can speak really personally for Benetton. I know we lose about 20 players come international season, and then they've got to come back, and it's impossible to play every game. So to potentially lose your 20 best players, I know at Benetton, Glasgow's exactly the same, and it's a really tough ask for some of those clubs to ask to compete when you're losing your players for half the season.
Yeah, I think also we discussed this a little bit before, Dean, that there's going to have to be an increase in squads for the club teams. On the flip side of that, they haven't got the finance, so they're going to have to be either amateurs or academy players, because in a Lions year for the home unions, there's no way that Warren Gatland and let's just say the Welsh Rugby Union are going to allow Alan Wyn-Jones, Justin Tipuric, Jonathan Davis to play all those club games and European games and international games and the Lions tour. It's not going to happen. So there's a lot of work to do here, a lot of thinking behind, and the international window, as Adam rightly says, will take precedent because it's the cash cow.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean,
no doubt.
As players, obviously as well, that's where you want to be playing. I mean, you can talk about how much pride you've got in your club and all of that, but standing out there singing an anthem and going out against another country certainly supersedes all of that. So, it's a very, very tough ask for all players. It's going to be a long road ahead.
I mean, it's an interesting point there, and you've spoken about it earlier on about, when you got the first cap, you wanted 5, then you wanted 10, then you wanted 20 and stuff like that. It's a big conversation in Europe over the last, 4 or 5 years when, players have systematically come up from the Southern Hemisphere and been picked to play, almost for, they're signed by an Irish team with the aim of them qualifying to play for Ireland. And people are talking about, should that guy play over someone who's actually Irish or English or Welsh and all this sort of stuff? What's it like being a Kiwi who then gets to play for Italy? And you had lived in Italy. You went to Italy to make your career when you left New Zealand or when you left Japan. And I was just wondering, what's your mindset there? And how are you no different from an Italian guy in terms of your attitude to pulling on a blue jersey?
I guess I just have to prove that on the field, ultimately. I mean, I certainly know that when I left New Zealand, I never had goal. Certainly, it's something that's always in the back of your mind. But I was never signed to come play for Italy, and my objective was never to play for Italy. It's kind of something that evolves within you, and you do actually feel like you are Italian, and you do merit that jersey, and you do feel a part of the culture and the system. So yeah, I never felt out of place once, and never was made to feel out of place either by fans or teammates. So it's not something that you consciously live. I know the fans live it daily. There's always something to talk about and always can get some headlines. But I mean, as players, I don't think you feel it too much. Well, in Italy, that's for sure. I mean, the Welsh and Irish papers seem to have always something pretty big to say about it all, but Italy a little bit less.
In many ways, it might work the other way, because of those things you mentioned, Adam. I don't know, Dean can answer this, but in many ways, you've probably got more of a point to prove. I'm really going to justify if I'm Kiwi born and I've been, selected to play for your country ahead of an Italian. I'm going to show that I'm worthy of this jersey. Is that the case, Dean?
Yeah, 100%. I'm good friends with Tom McCartney, who was a Kiwi, came and played for Connacht as a hooker, and he was always very keen to play for Ireland and was a good enough player. And I remember him telling me that Joe Smith basically said to him, "Mate, if you want to play for Ireland, you can't just be the same as another Irish hooker. You have to go up above and beyond to even be considered, just because of the stigma that comes around selecting a foreigner."
Yeah, there you go.
That's really. I mean, it's funny because publicly it's the last thing coaches and players want as a focal point around new guys coming into a team. But obviously that they're fully aware of it in the background. It's really interesting point. Like Joe actually saying that, to somebody like Tom, and he would have had to have that conversation with a couple of players and stuff like that. Particularly when in the Irish setup, and that was, I think that's the real point, is that these guys have to come in, and we've seen in Wales as well. Hadley Parks was so highly revered, and the problem is that the second you pull on the Wales jersey, if you're not the Hadley Parks that everyone expects, they will just take shots at you and stuff like that. And it's really harsh in terms of it's not like anyone's any less committed. I mean, if you're not committed on a test rugby pitch, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Listen, England's one day World Cup winning cricket team are quite happy to have Owen Morgan as their captain, and they're quite happy to have a few other people in their team at the moment who were born elsewhere.
Ben Stokes.
Yeah,
I haven't mentioned Brexit in a while, but and I won't start here.
Stop. We digress anyway. We were talking about the 8 nations, and there's a fair point here from Connor Smith. Does Pool A seem a bit?
No.
Okay, throw it up. Throw it up, Adam. Okay,
England out in terms of world rankings.
England, Wales, Ireland, Fiji, Italy, Scotland, France, Japan. So right now, if we were going on, I would give, all things being equal, right? I think you're looking at, if Japan geared up properly for that, that could be tasty in Pool B.
It's not out of a hat, that, is it?
No.
I'd play in Pool B all day.
Yeah, Pool B is where you want to be. Yeah. Definitely.
Pool B is less physical. If you're looking at it from that point of view. I mean, like France, you get the feeling that they're turning a corner, but I mean, there's no telling what this whole. There's no telling what this break in rugby will have done to that momentum. And I tell you something, what, Fiji in Pool A, you look at how Ireland play. It's very structured. You look how Wales are trying to adapt and move from Gatlin style to the way Pivot wants them to play. Yeah. Fiji will fancy themselves against Wales and Ireland.
Can I be annoying on this one? Throw that back again, right? Throw the graphic back up at him, because if you look at this through a slightly different lens, right? England massively screwed with COVID, right? Wales can't play at home in the Principality Stadium because it's being used as a hospital. So they're playing on the road, okay? Ireland, kind of okay. Fiji, far away, but you know what? If you got all the Fiji crew and based them in a small ground, right? Let's say somewhere like Welford Road, where they've got a very big Fijian who's retired from Fiji play, Mr. Nadolo, who maybe could come back in extreme circumstances, right? Versus Pool B, okay, Italy doing really well COVID-wise. Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, legend, doing really well. France got things under control. Japan got things under control. So, I'm selling this.
I like that. In terms of COVID, I like it. They should maybe, if you cope well, maybe you get a 3-point lead.
I like it. I like it a lot. We have another, hold on, Connor Smith. We've talked about, there is a point from Howell Davies, right? How many matches would the players play for the clubs before the internationals? This is where the 2 seasons kind of combine, and it's really messy. And you know what? Yeah. Right now, we don't know. There's too much up in the air. We just don't know. But there is a theory where if the Champions Cup side went to plan, you would have the back end of this season's Champions Cup come right up against that test window.
Thing is, all of these conversations, there is no perfect solution. Otherwise, it would have been done. Right? So it's pointless. I spend hours on Twitter sometimes debating with people. Oh, there's too many test matches. Oh, when are they going to be playing for this? There is no easy idea. Otherwise, we could just do it on this pod now in 5 minutes. It's a mess. It's a nightmare. The players are going to have to play too many games. That's going to happen. There aren't going to be as many club games as many people want. There will be too many test matches, but we need the money. That's that, and we need to just get on with it and then get the cash in and have worry about this next summer. Really, we've just got to get on with it. I think it's like most people's jobs are a mess at the moment, right? You don't know whether you're going to keep it, whether your company's even going to exist. So in my day job, for instance, Mitsubishi was one of our biggest clients. They've stopped selling cars in Europe now, right? Full stop. So everything's a mess everywhere. And, rugby's no different. So I think people wanting perfect solutions for rugby aren't really, probably as commercially aware as they need to be. And that's that, really. Just got to get on with it.
To answer Howard's question, not many. It's going to be the two rounds of Guinness Pro 14. We were talking for us up here. But for Scottish teams, Paul Williams, everything is awesome. But for Scottish teams, you just said that they're looking at a warm-up game against Georgia, then finishing off the Six Nations, then the potential 6+2. The Glasgow and Edinburgh Internationals they're going to play a couple of games. Simple as that.
Yeah.
As you're speaking of Georgia, why have they not got the nod?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I don't know why.
So, if you think about it, Georgia would be very well placed to be one of those teams. If you get Japan in, there's probably a big market there, and we all know, we've already said, look, money is everything. I think that Fiji coming in is necessary right now. There needs to be an island representation here, and there might have been discussion around a representative team from the Pacific Islands even. Georgia are the ones that miss out. They don't have the big clout commercially that another team would have. It's really good to see Scotland having a warm-up game.
Yeah.
Dean, what did you make of so like whenever people would talk about like switching teams in around the Six Nations, and Georgia are always the team that everybody wanted to mention and say, oh, what if Georgia, replaced Italy or something like that? But every time you guys played Georgia, you handled them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got results and stuff. Like I suppose there's 2 points that A, how did you guys feel around that sort of chat? Did it bother you or not? And then B, for all of the talk about Georgia, I mean, they haven't beaten anybody.
No, I mean, and this just goes to show that they're not even in the top 8 of Europe's eyes in the sense of economically what the game wants to do. So, but yeah, I mean, no, I mean, there was always so much pressure. It got really tiring towards the end hearing it, because we beat them comfortably, and we were actually pretty disappointed that we didn't put more points on them when we played them. And I mean, yeah, nothing against them. They had some really strong aspects to their game and quality, but they're not better than Italy is, and won't be for a few years yet. And the things that the crowds that Italy pulls and just the game in Italy, I think it's just a little bit further ahead of Georgia. So yeah, it's probably just an easy debate for everyone, but it's pretty invalid, I think.
Yeah, they do get big crowds in Tbilisi when they play Russia. I will say that, like literally 50,000 people. They pack them in. Yeah, this is good. Like there's genuinely, if you look, go down a YouTube rabbit hole. Trust me, it's worth it.
Salad.
Yeah, speaking of things I want to see on YouTube, but I'm not sure I can right now. Dean, you've been floating along quite nicely for a while here. I think I need to put some more pressure on. Adam, you know where I'm going with this.
Cat story.
Ian McKinley, cat story. Is that something you can share with friends?
No, not another dead pet, is it?
No, it's not. It's just what cat. There's nothing to do with a cat. It's just basically how it evolved into how we'd just say shit, essentially. Just so if something was a shit story, you'd just say it's a cat story, or if it's a bad looking bird, you'd be like, she's cat.
I am really disappointed with how this ended up. Right.
That's an Irish phrase.
It is. This is it.
That's cat. That's cat.
That's
oh, really?
I can't believe I didn't see it. It's so clear to me.
I think I'm going to have to remove McGeady from the pod for a minute now. Just that's disgraceful. I have to put him on timeout. Okay, you're back. You're back. We'll let you back.
I'm devastated.
Right, I think we have digressed from our editorial plan slightly.
We have. So we had been talking about, look, everything is on the table in this new rugby world because we need, and I mean the big we, right? So this is the we, the players, the sponsors, the people who work in offices. Frankly, Adam, that's you, right? The people who commentate in the games, Sean, that's you. The people who write in the games, the people who talk about the games. We need this sport to survive, so we need money in it, right?
Yes.
Now, that promotes some slightly crazy ideas. In unrelated news, Melbourne Rebels coach Dave Wessels wants to turn Australian rugby into the IPL.
That's surely comment of the day.
Oh god,
that's for the bear hug, isn't it?
Yeah. So
that's in the lead for bear hug.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've learned so far is dog equals duet and cat equals crap. So there we go. Sorry, we were about to start talking about Dave Wessels.
Yeah, so he wants this to become, like, since New Zealand wants to become the Super Rugby Aotearoa and just expand that and make that the new Super Rugby, right? That is what Super Rugby will be. Dave Wessels has a different plan. They did discuss this a few years ago in a different context, but he wants an Aussie IPL. So for those of you not up on your cricket as you might be, the Indian Premier League is a very big auction-based game. And what Wessels is saying, the conversation we should be having, is how do we build the best franchise competition in the world? How do we build our version of the IPL of rugby and build that not just for the best Australian players, but the best global players? How do we bring the Maro Itojes and that's those sort of guys to Australia and make a product that's really desirable for broadcasters and fans? So the Wessels plan is, we have all these cities in Australia. You let cities bid for franchises. And then when you have the franchises, you have auctions every year, or if you go IPL, you have a small auction, big auction every couple of years. And you spin the players around all the time. And that's how this works. It's a completely different model.
All I can hear
Sean,
is
on the scale of
Kerry Packer.
Yeah.
On the scale of,
that's where we are. On the scale of yes, everything is on the table. There are no bad ideas in this room, right? And Paul, you've been in those rooms where that happens, and it's not really true, right?
No, it's not a bad idea.
To oh yeah, this is solid. Next time this year, Rodney, we'll be millionaires, right? Where are we with this plan?
Look, I'd say that this would be a great idea if it was either based in South Africa or the UK. Reasons? Right. If you are in Australia, everybody wants to go to Australia, fabulous place, great people, beautiful environment, weather and so on, but nobody go and watch. Simple as that. Why is the IPL so good? Because there's hundreds of thousands of people fanatical that turn up and watch it. Aussies are watching cricket, they're watching rugby league, Aussie rules, they're watching swimming, they're watching dominoes before they watch rugby union. So, you know, I can't see it myself. I've been to 2 Aussie Lion stores in Australia. I've walked on the streets of the main cities and people are asking, oh, what are you guys doing here? You know, they just don't get it, right? So, you know, there's my Holley rant on this one. If it was in South Africa or New Zealand, New Zealand are going to do their own thing, understand that. It's a long, long way to go. South Africa, boom, you know, different. UK, European guys, no time travel, as it were, in terms of, you know, what do you call it? Jet lag and things like that. Good time for kickoffs. The fanatical fans out in South Africa, great climate and weather and so on. Likewise.
That'd be in the media Wales tomorrow, Sean.
You know, but no, it's just rank lower down. So yeah, and then if it was UK, wow, imagine that. You know, let's bring all those stars over for an IPL style tournament over here. And thank you, Aussies. All the best. So I think it's a riposte to the New Zealand idea. I think it's a bit of a riposte. It's come from the Melbourne Rebels. That's an interesting one. Hasn't come from anybody in the ARU. Hasn't come any from the broadcasters or the Waratahs or the Reds, the Brumbies, the stronger sort of teams traditionally. So I don't know. I can't see it working personally because nobody will go.
Yeah, I think Sean's entirely right there. It's the Australians, kicking off because let's face it, New Zealand's the only show in town in that corner, and everyone knows it at the moment. So they've got all the power, all the player power. So it's a little bit of a why don't we do our own? The major problem with that is it's going to require a load of startup capital, and Australian rugby hasn't got any money at all. So, they can barely fund the current system that they've got. They've only just axed one of their franchises, which they've had to drag back in. So, where they'd get the startup capital from that, I don't know. If there's a massive investor who wants to put a couple of $1 into that, fantastic. But I just can't see that happening. France would be the best place for it. Or even Japan, you could imagine that happening. But yeah, Australia, I can't see it.
Yeah, I'd just like to say those garbled comments come courtesy of Paul's fantastic internet provider there, which is great because we're just start talking about it.
That might have been the best point I ever made.
No, it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
There is a bit of a difference because India also has 1.3 billion people. It's just a completely different stratosphere when you talk about franchises.
But
I was looking.
Holley hates union.
It just be Holley hates. Holley loves lockdown and hates everything else.
It's okay. Do you know what? I love Grumpy Sean. Dean, we summed on the Saturday morning show. On a Saturday morning show when we're watching the game live and just doing this, watching the game, sometimes we get Grumpy Sean, and it's great. It's really, really good.
It's the coach in me, but he comes out sometimes,
Exactly.
It's phenomenal. So speaking as a forward, so here's one of the ones which you might relate to. Deep, as about 3 minutes to go, I'm going to say, right? The substitute scrum half comes on. And does not put that clearance kick into the stands.
Sean loved that.
Sean lost it. And I mean, he lost it.
Can you imagine, Dean? You're on the side of the scrum, right? You're leading by 2 points. You're inside your own 22 in the scrum. You're on the side of the scrum. The replacement scrum half comes on with a nice ponytail, by the way. He's lovely. He's shaved his legs. He's looking great. And you just want it in row Z, so the clock ticks down to a minute. You defend the line out, won the game. He kicks it straight on the best player's throat. I'm absolutely tamping by now,
Yeah. On the flipping tables at about 9:45 on the Saturday morning.
I want to bring Dean in here. So Dean, when you're, but when you're a forward, right, and you're sucking gas towards the end of the game, and you look around and you see your ponytail sub scrum half do that, you're going, listen, pal.
Yeah, then you're not chatting to him for a good week. I'll tell you that.
You're not chatting to him for a good week.
Yeah. What? I don't know. We said this is a semi-family show, so
we don't.
The abuse should throw just is not appropriate, even at 10 o'clock at night.
Please, Dean, please tell me that kangaroo courts and fines still exist at the elite level for these kinds of actions.
It's a dying thing, I tell you. It's something that I'm kind of the dying generation of it. Like we hanging on to it for all it is. Especially, it's not something that ever has really existed big in Italy, but yeah, just players are too professional now. It's almost sad in a way. And no one wants to drink a beer, and everyone wants to be in bed by 10, like you said, on the sleeping schedules, and everyone's just. Because they're just, especially in England now, you're kind of pre-academy systems and then academy from 18 till you turn pro. It's just, you just don't get a chance to live, and you don't know what it's actually like to have fun sometimes. I think the younger generation of players.
Yeah, it's a good point, mate. It is a good point. It was a nice one. Do you remember 2009 Lions tour South Africa? Richard Hibbard rolled the dice. So it's one of the things the Ospreys contributed to the Lions tour, apart from a few players. They'd have a big I'm available for a boozy team.
I am more than available.
There's that one where so you'd have a big dice. So if there was a minor misdemeanor, if somebody's late a few times, serial late to training or wore the wrong kit or whatever, or then there would be a roll of dice, and if you roll a 1, it would be pay a tenner. It would roll a 2, you had to clean the chain, whatever it was. Clean the coach's car was one. And that's the one thing that Richard Hibbard contributed to the Lions. So do you remember, I think it was Simon Zebo had to ring.
Rob Penny.
Rob Penny, yeah. And he got the answer phone, and as he's leaving a message, Penny's ringing back. Oh.
The best thing about that is the reaction of all the players, because they're a bit disappointed he's got the answer machine. Then all of a sudden, he's ringing back, and everybody just loses their mind. It's just...
Yeah, so you can still have a bit of fun, but there's nothing like a good boat race, is there, or kangaroo court?
Do you notice
an
eagle-eyed... an eagle-eyed viewer has noticed why Paul's communications with us have become somewhat garbled. James Reid is posing Russian interference on Paul's line.
A big black sedan will pull up now in a minute, and I'll have the pointy end of an umbrella jabbed in my thigh. just straight down.
Oh God! Well, I suppose we better talk about your final ever column on Pro14.rugby, which goes live tomorrow. So everyone enjoy that. Paul will mysteriously disappear before he gets to file another one.
I'll be yellow by the morning.
Well, Paul, you've got a lot to talk about. You have a lot to talk about, but you reckon that Scarlets' latest signing, who will not wear a jersey, could actually be one of their most impressive Kiwi signings. So Sean Fitz is there. Tell us about it.
Well, I just think, I think when you have non-exec directors signing at this, people can be a little bit skeptical. What are they going to bring? What are they going to add to the club? I think it's really important, as soon as you get somebody like that, I'd say he's one of about maybe 15 players in the world who can be recognised instantly, whichever room they go into, They're mostly World Cup winners, that kind of Martin Johnson, Lawrence Delalio, they're known and they carry a lot of weight. As soon as Fitzpatrick wanders into a room with sponsors, you've gone from are they going to sign to here's the signature. If you find out someone of that is going to be speaking or he's going to be, doing in the sort of hospitality, then all of a sudden you've sold all hospitality for that match. And the big thing, I think, is particularly in Wales at the moment, and the Scarlets in particular, they've signed quite a lot of talented Kiwis. I mentioned Regan King, obviously Hadley Parks, and there've been a few others. That link back to New Zealand, when you've got a young player saying, where the hell is Llanelli? Oh, that's where Fitzpatrick's on the board. So I think things like that are very important in terms of sort of commercial and the corporate side of running clubs. So I think he'd be a fantastic sign in inverted commas, if you want to put it that way.
Dean, how big is that pull of Shawnee Fitz being involved with any rugby club? Again, as Paul says, somebody says, well, where are Scarlets, or if they're not too sure. Sean carries a serious amount of gravitas, doesn't he?
Honestly, as a player, zero. I don't think it'd change my decision. I mean, he's going to, I don't know, I can speak. My dad personally was on the Blues board. He couldn't get me in the team. So I don't know how much pull they've got with the staff. But I don't, I mean, like you say, the commercial value of it could be really high, but as a player, I think I'm more interested in facilities and day-to-day running and who my coach is going to be and who my teammates are. I mean, it's certainly cool to be rubbing shoulders with Sean Fitzpatrick. He's a legend, but but it wouldn't be in my kind of top 5 points. I'd be looking to. I wouldn't know who anyone on the exec board is at any of the clubs, to be honest.
I think it's a real strange one. I know Sean really well. I've worked with him, and he has real presence. That gravitas you talk about, Adam, is his experience, his leadership, the way he talks. He's very motivational, speaks a lot of sense, intelligent man. Proud All Black, still involved in sort of instilling the values into the jerseys, next captain, all of that. And brings a tremendous amount of commercial acumen because he's a businessman in his own right, heavily involved in Laureate, so does a lot of work for charity. So I get the fact that being attached to Sean Fitzpatrick is a real attractive thing. What I don't understand is that we are strapped for cash a little bit in our regions, that I would imagine Sean is on a non-executive director salary of some kind, which is interesting in itself. Cletley is based in an area where there's not a lot of industry and commerce and that. So yes, he could pull some sort of money and business and commercial acumen from the city because he was involved with Harlequins. And there you go. So, Howell is saying there, as a Laureate ambassador, Sean Fitzpatrick will have made a lot of sponsorship contacts. Yes, he will. Yes,
he's actually put, which is quite good.
Fitzpatrick. He will have made a lot of contacts. But, with all due respect to us down here, and I'm talking about my homeland here, what is the attraction for a major sponsor, other than the fact that Scarlets has a huge, proud history, is a great club, a great area, fantastic people and supporters, yes, but where's the return? Where's the commercial buy-in? Can you guarantee the Scarlets are going to be in the top end of Guinness Pro 14 and European rugby, year in, year out? So I think it's a bit of a gamble. It's a nice one to have, if they can afford it, great. I was just a bit surprised. I was a little bit shocked and surprised. It's one of those curious ones.
The other important thing is he's also going to retain a position with Harlequin. It's not that he's going there flat out, on 250 grand or whatever it might be.
Which again makes it even more strange.
Yeah, well, I presume he's going to be splitting time between various roles, like you say. He's a busy, influential man. But I like you say, what he's going to do, nobody knows. But from the outset, there don't seem to be many downsides to it, to me, really.
No.
I'm just got a comment in here from Philip Martin, and great picture. I love it when people have really good quality profile pictures. He's got a Scarlets jersey on. They've brought the Six Nations trophies along. He says, "Rest in peace, Andrew Thomas." And for people
nice man
outside of Wales who probably may have seen this on Twitter over the last 24 hours, Tomo is the voice of Parky Scarlets. He's a big radio personality in Wales as well. And he has passed away suddenly. And first and foremost, our thoughts, our condolences, and our hearts go out to his family and everyone at Scarlets. Tomo, I only have known, so maybe in the last 3 or 4 years. My first ever visit to Parky Scarlets, he just basically walked over and just started giving me the unofficial tour of the stadium and stuff. This was a guy who I've met very few people with that energy and passion and just unbridled joy for their team, for their sport, and what they did. And a lot of people are going to be unbelievably heartbroken about this, and I'm glad Philip has brought it up, because I was trying to think of the best way to kind of mention such really bad news on the show. And Tomo, and this is a guy who's in his early 50s, so way too young to go. But also we a couple of years ago we started bringing for our final the announcers for both teams. So rather than hiring an announcer to do the final, we'd have the announcers for both teams. So the first year we did it was Leinster Scarlets, and so the Leinster guy did the Leinster announcements, and Tomo did the Scarlets ones. And he probably found out about 2 weeks beforehand. We got in touch and we said, "Look, Tomo, if Scarlets beat Glasgow, we're putting you on a plane to Dublin, and over you come, you're going to hold the mic and do the stuff for the final. And it was like dealing with like a schoolboy. He just literally, it's like he won the lotto. It was absolutely amazing. And the fun he had when he came over for that, and the experience that our team had with him, and the fun that he had with the Leinster announcer and stuff like that, in such a small burst of time around him. What an incredible guy. And I'd seen him every time I'd been Park Scarlets. And I have a fleeting experience of knowing him, and he's left an indelible impression on me, and I just can't understand how this has happened so suddenly. And Sean and Paul, I'll leave the floor to you guys. You know a bit more about him, you know.
He's a good friend of mine. It's devastating news. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him a long time because I was asked to do my own rugby show on a commercial radio station where he was working, and he took me under his wing because I was to present it, produce it, and he'd been doing it for years, and he gave me so much time and advice. But that was Tomo. Tomo had time for everybody. He'd do anything for you. He'd come down and host several events for me in charity fundraisers, never took a fee. When you turned up to either coach or commentate or whatever, TV at Parker Scarlets, when he became announcer down there, he'd come round up and say hello to everybody with a smile on his face. He was immaculately turned out. You cut him in half and he had Scarlets written all over him. He was that passionate about him, but had huge sort of integrity about him as well. Was extremely talented, was given his own radio show on BBC Radio Wales, and just always had a smile on his face. It's just shocking news. He's only a couple of years older than me, and I spoke to Shane Williams today. He had been doing a Facebook Live in the morning. He'd been cockle picking down in Pencloud, down that way, and so it was a real sudden thing. And when something like this happens, it's you know, it always seems to be the good ones. He battled illness earlier in his life and overcome that. He was such a proud, happy man. He had lots to look forward to. He loved his job. So it's really devastating news. Everybody in attached to the Scarlets will feel what I'm saying. Yeah, he's gone. When he became an announcer down there.
Hold on, that was weird.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. Don't know if you knew much about Tomo, did you at all? Or?
Yeah, do you know, I only met him a couple of times actually, but just echo everything Sean said. He was the voice of Parker Scarlets, you know, and I spoke with him a few times. And just love rugby, very passionate, happy man, like Sean says. It's a real tragedy.
It is, and I can't comment because I didn't know Tomo, and I'm not going to try. And you guys have said it better than anyone, because that's your experience with them. We did have a little challenge at the start of the show to pick out the best comment. Adam, have you been scanning? Is there anything there?
Yeah, I'm gonna put this one. That, you know what, Dean, you can Dean can have final call. I love the Russian interference line for Paul. Exactly why we won't see Paul again. Nice knowing you, Paul.
Cheers, boys.
I did think the any of the comments from the boys at Benetton were really good fun. Although I think they were being far too nice to Dean. But
they don't need any freebies either.
But look, I thought the whole show, the whole chat is cat.
The whole chat is cat. Yeah, that's the winner.
Yeah.
I'll definitely give that my vote for sure.
Yeah, but
I'll give that. I still want to know what's been going on Dean's phone with the real chat from the Benetton lads. What's been going on? That's what I want.
Maybe we could have a weekly kind of risque photo out of the collection. For the fans.
That'd be good.
Yes.
Just give it to me in advance so we can put the censorship mark across whatever area the photo will need it.
Well, a suitably placed, somewhat drinkable can of Guinness, yeah?
Exactly.
Great idea, Andy.
Somewhat drinkable
That's the kind of initiative that gets you something.
There you go. Right.
Very good.
I'll invoice you for that idea. that is a wrap for this week. Thank you very much to the UK bound, and I mean bound because he wants to be New Zealand bound, but he's bound in the UK. Dean Budd, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Paul Williams. Thank you, Sean Holley. Thank you, Adam Redmond. Yeah, it's been good. And it was a Bulgarian umbrella, not Russian. Just so you know, live fact check. Thank you, all of you who've given us some of your time either this evening or listening back. That was Under the Sticks, presented by Big Red Cloud. My name is Andy McGeady. Rest in peace, Tomo. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
They call me cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. Ooh, cheetah, cheetah, cheetah.